What Rich Paul just said is absolutely blasphemous. I don't care what anyone says. People like to disrespect Chris Bosh, and I really don't understand why. Chris Bosh is every single stretch big right now. Without Chris Bosh, there is no stretch big. He was shooting threes, taking guys off the dribble, dunking on people's heads, really before anyone else. You know, he really was like the modern day KG at that time, because I don't care what anyone says. Chris Bosh was handling business in Toronto. He was an all-star. He was a leader. Who was going to Toronto to help Chris Bosh? Who was actually going through the fire with Chris Bosh in Toronto? Before he left Toronto to join the Miami Heat, he was averaging 24 points a game, leading the Toronto Raptors. That team had nobody. Chris Bosh was an all-star, an Olympian, holding it down for Toronto all by himself. And just because he joins the Big Three and had to take a lesser role and sacrifice, now we deserve to bash him? Like I said, people forget how good he was on the Miami Heat with his floor spacing, his three-point shooting. He was a dominant big. And like I said, obviously, he had the hardest job because the two guys in front of him are LeBron James and D. Wade. So Rich Paul on why he didn't think Chris Bosh was a part of the Miami Heat's Big Three. So first, Max Kellerman says, people got on me for saying Kevin Love was a part of the Big Three if you define Big Three as three All-Stars. Now, Rich Paul said, that's not how I define it. Max said a Big Three should be if each player can be the best on a championship team. Rich said, yes, my thing was actually giving credit to Chris Bosh because he had the willingness after coming from Toronto, being an all-star, being the man there, to taking a step back and making the sacrifice. The reason I said Miami wasn't a Big Three, when you have a Big Three, each one of those players carry an entitlement that I share equity in this and this team. But he's kind of contradicting himself because he just said that Chris Bosh was that guy in Toronto and he was an all-star and an Olympian. And once again, just because Chris Bosh took a lesser role doesn't mean he was not him. And that's what I hate when people say that about Chris Bosh. People don't realize that Chris Bosh's career got cut short. Chris Bosh paved the way for guys like AD. Chris Bosh paved the way for a bunch of these dudes right now and all these stretch bigs. Chris Bosh is one of the most underrated and disrespected players in the NBA.
So you're talking about a Big Three, meaning each one of these guys could be the focal point of a championship winning team.
Yes, and my thing was actually giving credit to Chris Bosh because he had the willingness,
right,
after coming from Toronto, being an all-star, being a man there, to
on playoff
take
teams.
to actually take a step back and sacrifice.
Do you want to be 20-10 as the number one option on a team that gets bumped, where the ceiling is the second round?
Yes.
Or do you want to be 13-8 as the number 3 option on a dynasty?
And that's why I said
what kind of
that.
What do you want for your career?
That didn't really. And the last point I was making about that, the reason why I said it wasn't a Big Three is because when you have a Big Three, each one of those players carry an entitlement that I share equity in this, right? In this team in terms of...
I'll give you the first Big Three that could do it.
Okay.
We talked about them already.
Yahoo Sports has the Miami Heat as one of the best spots for John Morant to thrive in. With head coach Eric Spoelstra leading the charge, Morant could benefit from playing for an established champion. The Heat's offense this season could also benefit his skill set because Spoelstra has switched up the style to more of a run-and-gun system. The 26-year-old already has superb success for the Grizzlies, but that could get even better with the Miami Heat. So former Miami Heat player Markieff Morris believes Miami would get the best out of John Morant and says Heat culture isn't as crazy as it's made out to be. And I keep trying to tell people, I understand what happened, before Jimmy Butler. But everyone after Jimmy Butler, including Jimmy Butler himself, has said it's changed. You're allowed to live your life. They're not hovering over you. They're not taking cookies off the plane. I really do think the Miami Heat should at least look into John Morant because who are we to say no to talent? And we're in the play-in every single year. This team, yes, we started off great and everything like that. And obviously, there's a lot of things that the Miami Heat need to look into. Are we going to pay Norman Powell? Are we going to pay Tyler Hero? What's going on with Bam? Are we going to trade Andrew Wiggins? What are we doing with this young core? Khalil Ware, Jovic, Yakachonis. There's a lot of questions right now with the Miami Heat. But if you're able to get a young star at 26 years old for absolutely nothing, There's no reason why the Miami Heat shouldn't look into it.
Me too. I like him and Bam in that situation, and I keep seeing that because they got a Miami way, so you're gonna have to tighten up a lot of shit just playing for the Heat in general.
Right.
You in Miami, but it's still like it's not one of those things where niggas don't like you can't enjoy your life. Like it ain't that crazy. Like Miami culture is not as crazy. It's just the work you put in the attention to detail and the attention to what a professional basketball player is. Like that's the Miami way more than anything. Like the basketball is the easiest part because they know the game so well. Spo is a great coach. So if he's going to go to Miami, he's going to get put in the best possible position he could possibly be in on that basketball court without a question. Like, that's without a question. He's going to be like the best. Spo going to put him in that best spot where he's going to be able to succeed basketball-wise. But a lot come with that, being a part of the Heat. Like, a lot come with that. So if you're not ready mentally to be like locked all the way into the game of basketball.
I think he's in that position, though, like where he knows.
Man, you got to be.
Just the truth, like the disrespect of a team trying to like paint you and move on from you and that sort. You know what I mean? It could be done differently.
Yeah,
like, for somebody that brought that back.
He got his own sneaker.
He brought that back. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm like, yo, all right, well,
they forgot.
I believe that he's going to take this shit personally.
Bleacher Report's bold deadline prediction for the Miami Heat, a trade for Giannis. With apologies to Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, the Heat don't really have the kind of perennial all-NBA threat they typically do, at least not yet. I mean, and that's really not a bash at Tyler or Bam Adebayo. They're just not a number one option. Tyler Hero could rarely stay healthy, and even when he gets 20 points, is it really leading to winning? Bam Adebayo, what that man is going through right now, they're deep frying him. They're calling him a role player. They're pretty much throwing him under the bus that he sucks. I don't know if it's just injuries. I don't know if it's an offensive slump, but hopefully he can figure it out going forward. Now, when it comes to Giannis, once again, he is a double talker and a deceiver, and even Marcus Morris calls him out. So Marcus Morris on Giannis going back and forth with wanting out of Milwaukee and says they won't ever win because of Doc Rivers. He's trying to save face. If you don't really want to be there, just effing move on. They're not winning. The coach ain't that good. Bottom line, if nobody else will say it, I will say it. He ain't that effing good. And it's crazy because if he feels like that about Doc Rivers, other NBA players feel the exact same way. And he's being realistic. Giannis is not winning in Milwaukee. However, I'm not going to sit around here and wait for Giannis listen, we have guys like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. People are going to laugh and say, oh, they suck or they're not that good. No, they would fit the Miami Heat very well, and we're not going to have to give up 5 first-round picks. So I understand that people want Giannis on this team. Of course I do. But I'm not going to wait year after year after year and watch all this stuff just fall apart in front of us. Every single time we wait for a star, we never get them. And like I said, the Miami Heat have a bunch of questions that need to be answered. They need to trade certain players, figure out how they're going to move, figure out who they're going to keep, figure out who they're going to trade. Let's go Heat.